Lagos was noisy, busy, and hot as always. The sun hid behind thick clouds, and the air smelled of roasted corn and car horns. Tall buildings stood like proud kings over the city. From one of those buildings, the 25th floor of a glass tower, David looked out at the streets below. David was not a small man. He was tall, dark, and handsome. His beard was sharp like a warrior's blade, and his shoes could buy a whole village's food for a week. He was a billionaire, a business giant in Nigeria. His suits were always neat, his gold wristwatch always shining. Inside his big office, everything smelled of power-polished floors, strong coffee, and leather chairs. Behind him hung a giant painting of a lion staring into fire. "Rita," he spoke into the intercom. "Remind me about the meeting with Mr. Emiliano." Rita, his smart and sharp assistant, walked in with a tablet in her hand. "Sir?" "The meeting was moved to 3 p.m. His flight was delayed," she said, smiling. David nodded. "Thank you." He stood up, straightened his suit, picked up his black leather briefcase, and left the building. His driver waited downstairs, but David waved him off. "I'll walk," he said. "It's just down the road." He wanted to breathe. Walk in the real Lagos. Feel the ground under his feet. He moved like someone used to getting respect. People looked, but nobody dared say anything. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. Then suddenly something caught his eye. A dog. A golden-colored dog sitting at the edge of the sidewalk. It was dirty. Its fur was full of sand. Its ribs showed like empty yam sacks. Its eyes. Those eyes were deep. Sad, but also wise. David slowed down. The dog didn't bark, didn't beg. It just stared straight at him like it knew him. David whispered, "Poor thing. Lagos will humble anybody." He walked past. But 10 steps later, he felt a strong pull on his hand. He looked down. The dog had its teeth on the handle of his briefcase. "What the hell?" David shouted. He pulled. The dog pulled harder. "Let go." He shouted again, snapping his fingers. But the dog didn't let go. People stopped to watch. Some brought out their phones. "Nah, wetin be this?" One woman asked, "Is the dog dragging this fine man's bag?" David tried to scare the dog off. He clapped, stomped, even shouted. But the dog's eyes never left the bag. It was like the animal was on a mission. Then, with one sharp pull, the dog snatched the briefcase and ran. "Hey, come back here!" David screamed, and he ran after it. He didn't care about the mud, the dust, or his shoes. That briefcase had his cash, his bank cards, and his company's important files. The dog ran like it had done this before. It took turns, jumped over gutters, and dashed into small streets. David followed, breathing hard. The dog finally ran through a broken fence and disappeared into an old, abandoned building. David stopped. The place looked like a ghost house. No glass in the windows. No door. The walls had big cracks. The air smelled like dust and time. David entered, heart pounding. He stepped on broken tiles, moved past spider webs, and walked into the dark corner of the building. Then he saw it. His briefcase, and beside it, small girl. She lay on the floor, not moving. Her clothes were torn. Her hair was full of sand. Her skin looked dry, like cracked earth in dry season. She looked like hunger had been living in her body for weeks. And the dog. It dropped the briefcase beside her, then sat quietly, guarding her. David froze. His throat tightened. The dog bent and nudged her arm. No movement. Again. The dog nudged her. Still nothing. David's hand shook. He brought out his phone. "Rita," he said quickly, "cancel the meeting. Emergency. I'll send my location. Tell the driver to come fast." 10 minutes later, David's black SUV pulled up. His driver rushed in. "Sir, are you okay?" David didn't answer. He knelt down and lifted the girl. She was light, too light. Like carrying a sack with nothing inside. The dog followed. At the hospital, nurses ran out. One tried to stop the dog. "Don't touch that dog," David shouted. "If not for him, this child would be dead." They let the dog in. Doctors rushed the girl to her room. The dog stood beside her bed like a soldier protecting his queen. Later that night, David stood in the hallway. He called his mother. "Mama, my son, are you all right?" He told her everything. The dog, the girl, the building. She was quiet. Then she said, "Do you remember that man who paid your school fees when we had nothing? Maybe God is giving you the chance to return the kindness." David remembered. The man used to buy corn from his mother. He helped them when nobody else would. He made David's future possible. David didn't sleep that night. His thoughts stayed with the girl, her broken body, and the dog that refused to leave her side. And in his heart, something was changing. This was no ordinary dog. This was not an accident. This was fate. The next morning, before the sun rose fully, David was already at the hospital. He wore a simple shirt and trousers. His usual suit and tie stayed in the wardrobe. His heart was still heavy. His thoughts were still in that hospital room. When he entered, the dog, now known to everyone as Jack, was still sitting beside the little girl's bed. Its eyes were open, alert. But the moment it saw David, it wagged its tail softly and sat quietly again. David stepped closer. The girl still had not opened her eyes, but her breathing was deeper now. Her body was calm. A nurse walked in. Dr. David asked, "Why has she not woken up?" The doctor sighed. "She's malnourished. Her body is weak. But she's stable. She just needs time." David nodded, but in his chest worry was growing. Later that day, he sat in his office, but he couldn't focus. His coffee turned cold on his table. His phone rang. His team needed him for a business call. He canceled. Then at exactly 2:05 p.m., his phone rang again. "Sir, the girl is awake." David didn't wait. He ran through the hospital hallway like a storm. Nurses moved out of his way. His shirt was flying open. One shoe nearly falling off, he pushed the door open, and there she was. The little girl was sitting up, her small body wrapped in clean white sheets. She looked weak but alive. Her lips were dry, but her eyes were bright. She was holding the hospital TV remote, trying to tickle Jack's nose. Jack sneezed and wagged his tail. David stepped inside slowly. Jack growled a little at first, then relaxed. The girl looked up. "Who are you?" "I'm David," he said gently. "I found you. You were unconscious." She blinked. "You're not a kidnapper?" David laughed. "Definitely not." She looked down at Jack. "Jack didn't bite you." "Nope, he's been watching you like a soldier." She smiled faintly. "My name is Naomi." David sat beside her. "Naomi, do you have any family we can call? Someone to come take you home?" She shook her head. "Nobody wants me." Silence. David rubbed his chin. "Would you like to come? Stay with me for a while, just until we find your people." Naomi raised one eyebrow, like a tough madam. "Are you a bad man?" David chuckled. "I don't think so. Do you have a big TV?" "Yes." "Do you have plenty of food? 'Cause me and Jack have been fasting without prayer." David laughed and held his chest. "Yes, Naomi, plenty of food." That same afternoon, David took Naomi and Jack home. His mansion gates opened slowly. Staff lined up inside, confused. Who was this girl with a dog looking like royalty? Naomi stepped out gently. Jack followed like a king's guard. The staff whispered. She walked into the guest room like she owned it. After a warm bath and new clothes, Naomi came downstairs wearing a pink top with cartoon drawings and soft leggings. Jack wore a ribbon around his neck. At lunch, she sat like a small queen. She fed Jack small pieces of meat under the table. "Jack doesn't like pepper," she told the cook. Please, no stew for him." David smiled from the other side of the table. After lunch, Naomi looked at him and asked seriously, "Uncle David, hope you won't throw me and Jack out, 'cause we like our room already." David laughed. "You're not going anywhere." That evening, she tried to help the housemaids mop the floor. "If I don't work, shouldn't eat," she said proudly. David shouted, "Drop that mop. I'll beat you if you try that again." 3 days later, thunder arrived in the form of Mama David. She stormed the house like a market queen, wrapper tied tight, handbag swinging like a weapon. "David, open this gate before I break it." David ran out. "Mama, I thought you were coming next week." "Next week KO, next year nigh. I've been hearing about this child since your call. You think I'll sleep at home?" She entered, looking for Naomi. When Naomi came downstairs, Mama David dropped her bag and hugged the girl tightly. "My grandchild. See your fine face? Jack, come and greet Grandma." Jack wagged his tail and licked her feet. From that day, Naomi and Mama David became a team. They cooked together, laughed together, even fought over soup recipes. Jack followed them everywhere like a second grandson. One day, David called Naomi gently. "Naomi, can I ask you something?" She nodded, eating a biscuit. "What happened?" "To your parents." Naomi stopped chewing. "My mommy and daddy died in a car crash. Their names were Mr. and Mrs. Emma Evans. After they died, my uncle came. His name is Joe. At first, he was nice, but later he became wicked. He wanted me to sign papers. I refused." David's eyes sharpened. Naomi continued. "Then he beat me, stopped feeding me and Jack. Then he kicked us out." David stood up and left the room. He entered his study and called his private investigator. "Check. This name of Evans. Look into the car crash, the business, and especially the brother. Something is wrong." David remembered Emma Evans was the same man who used to buy roasted corn from his mother. That man once paid David's school fees. That man gave him hope when they had nothing. And now, David had rescued his daughter. 1 month later, Naomi had become a star in the house. Jack was now fat and shiny, like a royal dog. The maids loved her. Mama David called her my last born. Evenings were full of laughter. They watched African movies. Mama David shouted at the screen. Naomi clapped and gave her own opinions. Jack barked during fight scenes like he understood. David sat quietly, watching them. His mansion, once cold and quiet, is now full of joy. Naomi had brought light into his home. Jack had brought purpose into his heart. And David finally found something richer than money. Family.